Welcome. In this module we're talking about internal marketing. Internal marketing are those vehicles or the materials that are commonly thought of as the flyers, business cards, rack cards, those sort of things. It's the the internal inventory that you might have for promoting your products and services. Now, there's a lot of schools of thought around this sort of marketing. Some people say, listen, brochures are a waste of time. People just throw them in the bin. And I'd agree, sometimes that does happen. I also believe that it is important to have some flyers or some brochures that do describe your product or service, depending on what it is that you're selling. If you're selling a $2 widget, it may not be necessary. Maybe you're on your website where you've got your products, that's enough. And that in itself is a form of internal marketing. But if you're selling something that has a bit of detail to it and maybe a higher dollar value, then it's very important to have some supplementary sales material that people can hold on to, because it starts to make what you talk about, which is a verbal and intangible, into more of a tangible. Very important for services where you actually have nothing to physically touch. Having a brochure or some kind of internal piece of marketing gives your customers and your prospects something tangible to hold on to. So listen, we're going to cover through the basics around developing this sort of material and give you a couple of pointers around the key elements, which are business cards, rack cards, brochures, booklets, flyers, and lastly referral programs. Referral programs we're not going to go into a whole lot of detail on, because actually that is covered in another module, but we cover it here just briefly because referrals is another internal marketing strategy. Okay, our first internal marketing vehicle is business cards. Now, I put it number one because we believe that business cards is probably one of the most important internal marketing vehicles that you're going to have. You think about it this way: if you first meet someone, firstly you've got their physical appearance that you see, but if it's in a business context, pretty soon you're pulling out a business card, and that business card translates and communicates something about the business. So the question is, when you look at your business card, if you were to read it and pretend that you were someone that had just met you for the first time, what would your reaction be? Would your reaction be, okay, that's interesting? Reaction be, okay, I now got the contact information? Or would your reaction be, oh wow, that's a bit different? And that's the reaction you want to get. So look, in the workbook, there's a couple of good examples there around how to use die cutting, how to use pictures and images or design, using both sides of your business card, using different finishes like a matte cellar glaze or some gloss, spot gloss, a varnish. There's different things that we can do to create a little bit of a wow factor around your business card. Now, I know what you might be thinking, gee, all that costs a lot of money and I don't have a big budget to start up, or I don't know if it's worth spending the money on that kind of thing. And we're not here to tell you going out and spend a lot of money on your business card. I'm not an advocate of spending money unnecessarily. You've got to think about how often am I going to be presenting that business card, and what do I want that to say about me? And it might be worth, if you looked at all the things you've got, all the marketing materials you need to develop, you can start to have a look at where you're going to be spending your money, and you might say, listen, it is worth spending a little bit more on my business card. Even if you can't do a die cut business card, which they are quite expensive, you might be able to just do a different finish on the outside, or even having something different than, most people have name, rank and serial number on the front of their business card. Maybe yours is a thought-provoking question, around the emotional elements of the product or service that you're selling. Making sure you use both sides of your business card, and not just to say all the things that you do, but have something that's a little different, like a thought-provoking question. One of the greatest ones I saw from Jeffrey Gitomer, which is in the workbook there, on the back of it is actually just Google me. Right? It hasn't got all the details there, but promote someone actually go and Google you, and hopefully if someone's going to do that, there's a lot of stuff they're going to find. If you Google Jeffrey Gitomer, you find a ton of stuff, and you can see, hey, this is a pretty credible dude. So again, business cards, like all the things we're going to be discussing in internal marketing, it's about what's the impression that someone gets when you first give it to them. A business card doesn't necessarily have to get someone's attention because you're going to be there speaking to them. Unless you've got business cards sitting somewhere else in someone else's place of business, then it definitely needs to get attention. But think about how it's going to be used, and odds are you've already got someone's attention. So now it has to invoke interest and desire, and then hopefully a call to action also. And there's a great example of a call to action business card in the workbook. Now looking at brochures and flyers. These can be a similar type of medium, or they can be a bit different. Like flyers can sometimes be like mass address flyers that go out in the mail. We're more talking here about the ones that you would use internally, like a simple one-page sheet that might explain a product or a service, similar to what a brochure is going to do for you. So a couple of key elements that you need to know here, and the first one is what's the use of the tool or the vehicle? Is it going to be handed out? Is it going to be mailed out with invoices? Is it going to be sitting in a stand where someone has to actually see it and pick it up? Because that's going to depend on how you're going to design it. If someone has to go out there and pick it up, then the attention grabbing element of the piece needs to be a lot more than if it's going to be something you're going to physically hand to someone. Are they going to download it? Is it going to be sitting in someone else's business and it has to get their attention? And now a few key elements to keep in mind around making your piece effective. You know, as with most things we're discussing here, these are all tools to help in the conversion process. You know, you look at the sales process where you attract a new customer or an existing customer and you start telling them or making them aware about your product and service. There's going to be a number of steps there through the point where you make a sale and they choose to buy. These sorts of things like brochures and flyers are tools to help along that process. So measuring your conversion rate and knowing at what point in the sales process you're going to be using these tools is important in looking at their design. And also we're going to be following, like we've mentioned in previous modules, the AIDA philosophy: attention, interest, desire, and action. Always your marketing pieces should follow this philosophy. It's important when you're designing brochures and flyers to have a professional help you with that. If you're not creative or you haven't got a bit of an artistic flair, then it's worth paying a little bit of money. Again, how you present these is a reflection on your business. I've seen some out there in the marketplace that are absolutely shocking. Clearly they're done by the business owner at home in Microsoft Word, and bad colors and just bad design. And I just think to myself, well, there's a business owner that's struggling, and they're clearly, how good are they at what they do if they can't afford to get a designer to do the work? And you don't need to pay a bomb to get some professional design work. Check out elance.com. There's some great designers there, where you probably know someone in your local networks. If you're really stuck, come and ask us and we can refer you to some designers that can help you out there. Use of photos and pictures, all very important stuff there in the design. Now, it's quite possible too that your brochures and flyers are going to represent or be similar to some of the landing pages you're going to have on your website. So let's say you're building a campaign around let's say you're a dog washing service. When there's a special promotion that you're running for, let's say for spring, time to get the dog washed, make the dog smell nice, look good. You would build if you're going to be doing some networking, you want to be handing some flyers out, say you design a flyer or a brochure, you would also have a similar thing designed for your website, the one-page landing page, where someone can go from your brochure, they can click on, go online, maybe you're running some AdWords in conjunction, so it all looks the same, and therefore when you create the copy and the artwork for your brochure, it's going to be the same that's on your landing page. So you're creating multiple vehicles with the same copy and content. The last thing I'll mention on brochures and flyers is make sure that you have your call to action. Know what you want that piece to do. Do you want someone to read it and just be informed, or do you want them to go to your website, or do you want them to call you and make a purchase? Do you want them to call you and just ask for some more information? What is it that you want them to do? Be very clear about that, and make sure your contact details are clearly there, so it's nice and easy for people to follow the instructions and take the action. Our next internal marketing vehicle is booklets. Now booklets, these are obviously the little, it's not usually a full size book, but the short form mini book, if you like, that you often see that's like 15 to 30 pages. Look, the reason you would use one of these, and they're certainly not applicable for every situation, but they do two key things. Number one is they increase credibility, and number two is they can transfer more information than you can in a short flyer or brochure. A couple of things to consider: they can be quite expensive to do, although these days with short run print options, it is more possible to do. They must be professional. If you're going to go to the effort of producing a booklet, make sure you get a designer involved. I know I've mentioned that in a few of the vehicles, but it really is important to make sure that you're being portrayed exactly how you want people to perceive you. And lastly, it's a good idea to make it downloadable on your website too. If there's a lot of value in the booklet, which hopefully there is, otherwise why would you do one? You can make it a free giveaway on your website, and people can request to download that, and that's a way for you to use as a lead generator also, to get some leads through your website. A booklet might be, let's say you're a wedding planner, it might be the 6 critical steps to make sure your wedding day is the best day of your life. That could be a booklet that you would give to someone. It's a bit of education, and also helps build the credibility around you as a wedding planner, and help you secure the deal. Next up, we've got POS flyers. Now, let me expand on this a little bit. Flyers is a bit of a misleading term. This is where you have something you can staple to your invoice or the receipt that you're giving someone. Can work in a point of sale situation, can also work if you're mailing an invoice. It could be an invoice stuffer. But if you are sending something or giving something to someone, let's say you are a point of sale, say you're a retail store and you've got a receipt there, why not have a little thank you card that you can staple it to, and on that thank you card is also some promotion about another product or a service you've got, or an invitation to download something from your website. Let's say, for example, you're a lawyer and you were trying to focus on converting existing customers to wills and power of attorneys. Well, on that little card, you might have, hey, thanks for using us for your real estate close, and you might be interested in downloading our booklet or our white paper on the 3 secret benefits to doing your wills when you're young. And that would be applicable if you were trying to focus on young people to get them to do their wills and estate planning. So it's an opportunity that's already there. You're already doing something, you're already interacting with the customer. Take advantage of it and do something that provides some value to them and also helps them understand more about how you can help them. Number 5 on our list of internal marketing vehicles is rack cards. Now, rack cards, think of rack cards like when you go to the airport and you go there, there's a big sort of wall or a shelf of different displays of flyers and brochures and rack cards. That's kind of what we're talking about. In a rack, all the cards are sitting there. So think of your rack card kind of like a billboard. And what I mean by that is you've got a very short amount of time. With a billboard, someone's driving past it and you've got a very short amount of time to capture their attention. A rack card's kind of the same because someone is there, they're probably not there for a long period of time and they've got lots of other things they're looking at, so yours has to stand out. I mean, if it was in that situation where you've got a lot of other rack cards there with you, perhaps yours is a standalone in one of your strategic alliance businesses. But either way, it's got to have a way of getting someone's attention pretty quickly. The 2 key ways that we do that is either through an emotionally engaging picture or through a powerful and engaging question or a headline. So that's very important to have in your rack card. The other thing is, the next most important is to have a compelling offer. Someone's not going to spend a ton of time on it, maybe they'll take it and read it later, but you want them to be able to see the headline and then the offer and make that connection pretty quickly as to what's in it for them to keep reading. The other important part of a rack card is they've got to know how to find you, whether it's a website or a physical location or just a phone number. Make sure that's clear and prominent, and it's very easy for them to follow the instructions on how to take action. The last thing you want to put in there is your tagline or your USP, unique selling proposition. that helps differentiate you from your competition, if that's applicable to sort of the locations you're going to be putting your rat card. I mean, there's not too many situations where a USP is not going to be helpful to put on there. You've got to gauge as to whether and how powerful that's going to be in your situation. But they're the 5 key steps for rat cards. They're all listed out there in your workbook, and can work very well depending on what it is that you're trying to sell. The last of our internal marketing vehicles is, of course, referrals. Now, I've put it last, not because it's the least important. In fact, I would say it's the most important. But we're not going to go into detail here because we've covered it extensively in another module. Just want to make you aware that it is another form of internal marketing, although a little bit different to the other 5 that we've covered, but one that you want to make sure you're harnessing. And in module 3, we went through a lot of detail there on the steps of creating your referral strategies. So if you haven't done so, go back and refer to that one, and have fun with it.